Do we fall in love with someone who is just like us, or someone who is completely different? This is a total trap. It's a trap because no one is your exact mirror image, and no one is your polar opposite. But the beauty of this question is that it forces us to face the ultimate riddle. Where does love actually begin? To crack this open, I have to look at Comrade, Almost a Love Story, a film I consider to be the absolute peak of Chinese romance cinema. The story unfolds in the 1980s and 90s, following two young mainlanders, Xiaojun and Li Qiao, who moved to Hong Kong to hustle for a better life. When they meet, Xiaojun already has a fiancée back home. His only goal in Hong Kong is to make enough money to marry her. Li Qiao is driven by raw ambition. She is there to climb the social ladder and strike it rich. Their goals could not be more different. But they share the exact same plight and the exact same loneliness. And just like that, love found a way in. This, in itself, answers that trick question. Almost all enduring love stories grow from the same soil. People feel lonely, they ache to be seen, and they are vulnerable. This is where it all starts. This is why the most moving love stories always happen to people on the margins of society. Love, at its core, is built on human frailty. It roots itself in those unspeakable shadows, in selfishness, possessiveness, and the urge for validation. In the film, Li Qiao's situation seems a bit better than Xiaojun's at first glance. She is from Guangdong and speaks Cantonese, the same language Hong Kongers speak. She is tough, driven, and full of life. Xiaojun, on the other hand, is completely out of his element, speaking only Mandarin. But stripped down to the core, both are just outsiders newly arrived in Hong Kong. In those days, going to Hong Kong was a gold rush. Mainland China was just opening up. A regular city worker, teacher, or clerk made a measly 60 to 100 RMB a month. But in Hong Kong, even the lowest tier of manual labor paid over 1,500 RMB. This meant that washing dishes in Hong Kong for a single month paid as much as working for a year or two back home without eating or drinking. Because of this massive economic divide, Hong Kongers looked down on mainlanders. Local discrimination reaches a toxic peak, and they had all kinds of nasty slurs for them. This harsh reality made mainlanders feel like total outsiders, driving their isolation to an extreme high. Back then, there were no McDonald's in the mainland. Xiaojun goes to McDonald's just to chase a trend, and he runs into Li Qiao, who works there. Li Qiao helps the non-Cantonese speaking Xiaojun place his order, and they strike up an acquaintance. From the very start, Li Qiao is fiercely pragmatic. She doesn't have a single romantic bone in her body. She just sees Xiaojun as cheap labor who can help her deliver flowers. It isn't until the Lantern Festival, when her business selling Teresa Teng cassette tapes goes under, that they finally talk about what's really on their minds. For the first time, Li Qiao lets her guard down, and on that very night, they cross the line. The way their relationship starts is pure survival. A specific environment creates a specific bond. This connection is inherently fragile. It depends entirely on their shared struggle to stay alive. The moment that structure falls apart, the relationship naturally dies. For a while, they maintain this arrangement as friends with benefits, huddling together for mutual warmth while displaying a silent pact to evade any real-world obstacles or future questions. That is, until their core differences finally catch up with them. Xiaojun doesn't have a grand design for his life. He comes to Hong Kong simply to seek refuge with his aunt, doing the dirtiest, hardest work at a poultry stall. But he is a fundamentally simple, blunt person. This grind doesn't feel like torture to him. He doesn't waste time obsessing over whether he is living a lower class life. He isn't wired that way. Making money is good enough. Eating McDonald's is good enough. Li Qiao is cut from an entirely different cloth. She is consumed by the drive to build a house for her mother back home, and she desperately wants to buy a flat to anchor herself in Hong Kong. While waiting outside the stock exchange, she sees a married couple screaming at each other over money. She vents to Xiaojun, finding it pathetic that a husband and wife could reduce themselves to such misery over finances. In that same conversation, she makes it clear that she didn't come all the way to Hong Kong just to marry another mainlander. Xiaojun takes this as a definitive rejection. The truth is, he has never truly grasped what Li Qiao is actually chasing. They just share the same situation for a brief moment, and that situation triggered the same emotional cravings. Xiaojun never truly understands Li Qiao. To Xiaojun, Li Qiao is incredibly capable and sharp. A dynamic established the moment they met. At that specific time, Li Qiao needed someone to look up to her, and Xiaojun needed someone to push him forward. So their relationship worked at first. But when Li Qiao loses everything in the stock market crash, Xiaojun completely fails to keep pace with her mental shift. Quietly, they have already gone down two different roads. When Li Qiao's first business failed and she showed her weakness, they got together. But when she loses everything in the stock market and has to give foot massages to pay her debts, Xiaojun is fundamentally incapable of understanding the pain tearing through her. In that era, working as a foot masseuse was not just about hard manual labor. The industry carries a heavy stigma of soft erotics. How far you were willing to go for a customer dictate how much tip money you will get. So from a social perspective, even though Li Qiao only gave massages and didn't provide sex work, the assault on her dignity and the humiliation she had to endure was incredibly violent. People who chase success are bound to be lonely. That is just how it works. Chasing success is a lonely journey. You just can't have that and a normal, cozy life at the same time. To have ordinary happiness, you need to be a bit simple and blunt like Xiaojun, to live in a bad situation but not really register how bad it is. Because it doesn't feel that bad to him, he doesn't feel deprived. And because he's free from that deprivation, he's never driven to claw for a grander life, which means he has less chance of feeling miserably. He cannot touch Li Qiao's void. He can calculate her pain, but he can never bleed with her. When Xiaojun takes Li Qiao to a jewelry store, he loudly tells the clerk that Li Qiao's hands hurt because she gives massages for a living. Li Qiao is visibly upset, but Xiaojun is utterly baffled by her irritation. To him, earning an honest living is nothing to be ashamed of. Later, when he buys a gold bracelet for his fiancée, he buys the exact same one for Li Qiao, seeing absolutely nothing wrong with it. These two moments are incredibly subtle. On the surface, he didn't do anything wrong, but they expose a bone-deep disconnect. Xiaojun's blindness leaves him completely shut off from the shame of Li Qiao's underclass reality. The survival-based illusion of their relationship cannot withstand the cold glare of social reality. In Xiaojun's eyes, buying two identical bracelets is just a matter of whether he has enough cash. But to Li Qiao, this is a crisis of identity, especially when she is so vulnerable and drowning in debt. That duplicate gold bracelet completely sets off her deep anxiety about who she is. After a brief, tense argument, Li Qiao quietly delivers that famous line. They break up, and that was the end of it for now. There are two kinds of being the same. The first is a shared situation. Two people living together long enough can easily align their daily realities. The second is a shared core nature, which requires both people to have a similar capacity for pain, a similar hunger for success, and a similar kind of drive. Sharing a situation is relatively easy. Sharing a core nature is incredibly rare. Xiaojun and Li Qiao got together because their situations were the same, and they fell apart the moment their core natures were exposed. After Li Qiao's financial ruin, she meets brother Pao while working as a masseuse. Pao is a mob boss with serious wealth and power. When Pao casually talks about gang violence in front of her and pressures her, Li Qiao instantly snaps back. Pao respects her guts and starts taking her seriously. When Li Qiao says she is afraid of nothing except mice, Pao goes out and gets a silly Mickey Mouse tattooed right in the middle of its terrifying underworld back ink. He saw right through her rigid armor. He chose to drop his defenses and used his actions to tell her, "You don't have to pretend you are made of iron." Their relationship starts because Pao holds on to Li Qiao when she fails. This happens not because he has more money, but because he has a bigger heart. Xiaojun could see her, but he could only see her tough exterior. He was blind to her profound exhaustion. He was felt a moral obligation to stay with her and offer care. But if you really question why he stayed or why he cared, the reasons don't hold up under close look. He did it simply because his internal code told him it was the right thing to do. This brings out a brutal truth about relationships. People always greedily hope for a perfect container to enter their lives. Someone rich, incredibly smart, and ready to hold all of their broken pieces. But people forget that a container's capacity to hold weight depends entirely on the mass of the object placed awaiting it. Li Qiao is way too heavy for Xiaojun. She is an advanced problem he simply cannot solve, a weight his container cannot hold. Instead, she became his one-sided container. But Pao can hold her weight, and Li Qiao proves worthy of him. They are the ones who truly have the capacity to hold each other. They are the ones with the same core nature. Pao spent his life in danger. He knows exactly what a person is made of under pressure. So he can read Li Qiao. He understands her ambition. And he has the stomach for her calculating mind. When Pao gets into trouble and has to run, Li Qiao chooses to go with him, leaving Xiaojun standing abandoned on the pier. She does this because her feelings for Xiaojun are actually too thin. What she loves about Xiaojun isn't really him as a person, but the memory of what they went through together. To be blunt, it's just a form of self-love. The regret we feel over the path that's not taken. But regret is always a choice. We call it a regret because the alternative was too light and didn't matter enough to be chosen when the chips were down. Regret is always a calculated choice. Pao never demanded that Li Qiao run with him. He actually urged her to stay behind and live a normal life. But Li Qiao could see Pao's deep loneliness and the heavy toll of its existence. Their bond is built on a real, solid understanding. Because I truly get you, I'm staying. It has nothing to do with pity, and it's not some cheap, small romance. The way they support each other looks nothing like typical love. But most love we see in the real world is incredibly selfish. It's just a pure self-gratification, a cheap accessory for the ego, lightweight and empty. The most moving part is how Li Qiao reacts when she first sees that Mickey Mouse tattoo. She tries to hide her feelings. Many people don't think this is love when they first watch it. They think it's just gangster loyalty. We are too used to toxic relationships. We know all about manipulation, jealousy, and shouting matches. We mistake what is familiar for love, but true understanding, true safety, and just giving to the person you love. These actions are so rare in real life that they feel so strange to us. They feel too gentle and too comfortable to be classified as love. After breaking up with Li Qiao, Xiaojun brings his fiancée, Xiaoting, to Hong Kong and marries her. Li Qiao and Pao go to the wedding. That night, Li Qiao can't sleep. Pao gets a late-night phone call to go handle some mob trouble. Before he leaves, he looks at her and says calmly,
你瞓啦，唔好成日諗住你嘅新郎哥啦，知唔知啊？
From beginning to end, his attitude never changes. I see it, I get it, it's fine. The director Peter Chan said in an interview, the love between Xiaojun and Li Qiao is a dime a dozen. But for a woman to meet a man like Brother Pao once in a lifetime, that is what real love is. At the end of the movie, Xiaojun confesses his infidelity to Xiaoting, gets a divorce, and moves to New York to work as a cook in Chinatown. Li Qiao follows Pao to New York too. On bleak New York street, Pao is casually shot and killed by a bunch of teenagers over a gold watch. In the morgue, Li Qiao looks down at his body, sees that tragic Mickey Mouse tattoo, and delivers the most heartbreaking cry. Her wild ambition has been completely crushed by time and reality. The weight of the real world is heavy and undeniable. Years later, Xiaojun and Li Qiao meet again on a New York street. Most people see this as a happy ending, a victory for love. I see it as a victory for the mundane world. Does Xiaojun finally understand Li Qiao now? All these years have passed, but he is still the exact same simple person. What changed is that Li Qiao's wild ambition has been cut away. She has turned into a tired woman who just wants to live a quiet life. Whether she was worn down or castrated by reality, the parts of her that didn't fit into the ordinary world have been clipped away. And because of that, they can finally live a happy life together. Their situations are identical once again, just like those early days in Hong Kong. And because their situations are the same, love can find a way back in. This reunion in New York is just fate successfully breaking a wild soul. So, the real answer Comrades Almost a Love Story gives us is this. Love begins with matching circumstances, and it settles into matching circumstances. Fate cuts down anyone who stands out. It forces everyone to become ordinary, because that's the only way you are allowed to be happy. This is a crude solution, and it's a product of its time. But this really is the most common reality of life. It's as if real happiness requires you to be broken and to compromise. It's only when you have no strength left to fight, to strive, or to chase big dreams that you are finally ready to live a peaceful life. It's not that they finally found their way back to love. It's that they both finally arrived at total defeat.